all the material today is going to be based on our personal experiences as well as our research. So, you know, you can't say in a court of law that, well, John said this or Ian said this. That's not really going to hold up with a judge.
Please don't say that.
But hopefully none of you will ever have to be in that situation. I've never been in that situation, Ian. I don't think you have either. I pray, because, I mean,
Close.
I sincerely believe that artists should never, ever have to be put on trial for making art, no matter how controversial it is, really. So with that, let's begin. I'm not even going to share my screen. I'm just going to start with the film that everyone was supposed to watch before this session, and it is called Everything is a Remix. Is this backwards, Ian? Or can you see, is the text left to right, or is it backwards?
It looks frontwards to me.
It is frontwards. That's interesting that Zoom, I mean, I guess it's like a mirror, so Zoom shows us as being backwards. But anyway, so yeah, I got myself some merch. Not Walter Merch, but MERCH from Kirby's website, and I connected with him online. He's a really sweet guy. He actually makes a living off of this stuff, I'm pretty sure. He makes a lot of different documentaries. Some of them are like about more political things or conspiracy theories, kind of debunking conspiracy theories, not confirming them. He's not one of those people. And he, as you could tell from Everything is a Remix, he's very creative himself, and just has a real mastery of using Premiere and After Effects, and, you know, making found footage his own, really, and using it in his own way. And so the Everything is a Remix, even Everything is a Remix is a remix. You know, the actual film itself is a mashup, and I love all the filters that he uses and everything, and his use of sound. Anyway, this could just be empty praise, but I want to get more to the substance of the film. So I'd like to just hear anyone's opinions about anything that they saw in the movie, positive or negative, things they disagree with, things they agree with, things that were eye-opening, etc. So let's hear you.
Okay, I have a phrase I can share that I kind of came up with.
Yes.
Very basic, but copying somebody else's homework has been around since the beginning of time.
Yes, that's true. Can you elaborate this?
Well, so I kind of came up with that phrase once we got to the part about, like, the inventions and how people were, like, there was the examples of people just coming up with the same inventions at the same time, and then some where people were like, okay, look at this invention, I'm gonna make it better, and then I can also sell it for less, so mine will make more money and mine will be more popular. But just the idea of basically, quote unquote, copying somebody else's homework has been around since forever.
Absolutely. Yeah, everything's a remix. Everything is taken from something else in various forms. Ian?
I do have a question about using news footage, because technically that would that be seen as, like, public domain? Because it is being broadcasted to the whole area. However, I understand if it's, like, you know, looked down upon to reuse the footage.
Right. So that's a great question. In our film Kung Fu Joe, we actually used a pretty sizable clip from, what is it, WPXI, WXPI, Pittsburgh. That's their, that's the local TV news station. And there was a really relevant story that they did about the title character or person. And and it fit in very well. We, in the lower third, we put like a little, not courtesy because we didn't get permission to use it, but we just put something like WPXI news or just a little attribute for who actually made this. And then, the movie's been online for over a year and no one's ever said anything. I mean, we're not really, the real line that you're drawing here is between whether you're just copying the news, literally just recording it and then releasing it and saying that you made it. That's not what we're doing. We're using a clip in the context of an entire documentary and in a very, I think, fair way. And so the context justifies it. And also, it brings up this whole notion of fair use, which we're going to talk about a lot more in just a little bit. Liz, you're talking about links, photos. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so let's carve out maybe like 10 minutes at the end for that. What else? Let's go back to Kirby's film. Remember, he's talking not only about music, but also film, about non-art areas like science, inventions, cars, computers. I mean, Steve Jobs would probably say that computers are an art, but what were your reactions to some of the points that he was making?
So I was just a little confused when he said at the beginning of like the 20th century, everyone like kind of realized it was for the common good and had like all their ideas shared and stuff. Is like, what did that look like? Like, what did he mean by that? Like, were there like libraries that had everyone's work in it and you could just go and look at everything and use it? Or
yeah, my understanding is that, this is before a lot of the copyright laws that we know of today had been passed. So like in the last 100 years, things have changed so dramatically. So many things have been litigated that it's just become an absolute minefield where, as Kirby said, there are industries basically based around copyright lawsuits. There are people whose job it is every day. As he says, they don't make anything. They're devoting their lives to suing people to make money, which is, pretty morally bankrupt. But yeah, I don't know specifically. I mean, like what exactly that looked like, Max, unfortunately. But I'm sure, it was more of a, it was a freer society and everything, and there were probably instances where someone went too far, and so that's all. There's always someone who ruins it for the rest of us, who just goes too far in copying too much, and not, as Kirby says, you're combining, you're transforming, and then you're copying, you're transforming, and then you're combining. If you don't transform it enough, and you don't combine enough of other materials, then that's where things are going to get litigated. Litigated means bringing it into the legal sphere, into the courtrooms, into the, bringing the law into the matter. And so now everything is over litigated, and it's just it has become quite arbitrary. Certain people are sued. And certain people aren't. Certain people who have made a lot of money off of someone else's work kind of get away with it. Other people who, are just trying to make something are fined. Or, I don't know if actual prison time, I mean, that would be insane. But, I mean, there are some really serious cases, especially with music. But yeah, like I'd like to talk a little bit more like philosophically and morally about, what does it mean when, like the best example I think is hip hop, where we just hear for a long time samples were allowed and were, the Beastie Boys actually used Beatles samples on their album Paul's Boutique, and that was before that lawsuit that Kirby was talking about was passed and then or was settled. And so then ever since then, I think rap has become a little less melodic. There's been a lot fewer melodies and fewer pop songs or whatever being used because everyone's afraid, like we're just living in fear, and I don't know, like, do you think a hip hop artist or their label should pay for samples? And maybe if anyone could think of a good example of why or why not, that would be great.
Well, this isn't like quite answering your question, but Ariana Grande, Seven Rings,
Yes.
copies The Sound of Music.
Ah, okay.
That bothers me so much.
It bothers you. Why?
Because it's like every time I hear that melody, everyone starts singing about like Ariana Grande, and I'm like, that's not what that song is for. It like kind of ruined that song for me. Because it's such like a nice song, but it's like I can't even remember the lyrics right now because I'm just thinking like girls with tattoos are like getting in trouble. Like that's not like the point of the song, and she turned like a nice like song into like and she didn't really like give it credit. Like I mean, people like like some people know, but some people think that she just like came up with it on her own and she got so much money for it. But like I just don't think it's fair.
The interesting thing is she did pay a fair amount of money in lawsuits, but the thing is she basically hijacked the song so effectively that literally, like, I watched The Sound of Music for years because my mom liked it. Literally, after hearing that song once, I could not get the lyrics out of her head. So basically, she paid amount, but for the amount of influence she got out of that song, she did not pay enough.
Yeah, like, because it became such a huge hit. And I think it's a good song, but, like, I hate that, like, why wouldn't you just write your own melody to it? Like, she's such a big pop star. Like, there's no need for her to copy anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I need to hear this song. Is it called My Favorite Rings? Is that it?
Seven Rings. It's like I forget the words now, but it's literally like girls with tattoos who like getting in trouble. Something I like, expensive thing. These are like it's like literally
It's
just copying the melody.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, this is an artistic issue, I mean, obviously, Gianna, you're taking offense to it. You think it's in bad taste. You think that she should have just written her own melody. Something about My Favorite Things spoke to her and motivated her to write this parody of it. And parody is actually a legal form of copying. For the most part. There are several instances where it's gotten into a legal gray area and, and it's had to be settled in court. But for the most part, you can get away with it. Like, that's why, on Saturday Night Live, there are lots of parodies of different things in pop culture, and, they don't have to pay at all because everyone knows that it's a parody. So if it's for comedic purposes, you can really get away with a lot. So I'm actually surprised that she had to. I'm guessing because the majority of the song is using that melody, and so that brings up this whole area of degree. How much of the piece are you using, and how central is the piece to your piece, to your reinvent or to your new piece of art? And instead of so I mean. Like Fight the Power, we were talking about the other day from Do the Right Thing, Public Enemy used so many different samples in that song. And a lot of them are barely recognizable. Some of them are very recognizable, but the point is that none of them dominate the song. None of them are played throughout. Whereas Seven Rings, obviously the entire song is taking this melody from Sound of Music and switching around the lyrics. So it's kind of, I mean, it's not for comedic use. So that's probably why she had to pay. I mean, I don't know if that was actually the real reason, but yeah, that's a really interesting case. If a hip hop song does use another song throughout, like as its main melody, not as a parody or switching the lyrics around, but just if you're using like a sample and it keeps playing over and over again, and it is throughout the majority of your song, then it's kind of getting into that legal gray area. Ian, what were you going to say?
One like really relevant example is the song "Old Country Road." They lifted the entire melody from a Trent Reznor song or Nine Inch Nails song.
Old Town Road.
Yeah, Old Town Road, and have the quotes from Trent Reznor. You feel a little violated, and then you get over it and you realize it's become something else. Johnny Cash did the same thing with my music. It's very flattering. I thought he did a good job with it. So I mean, Trent Reznor didn't care, yes. But ironically, Trent Reznor was honored at the Country Music Awards for creating what was essentially the main hook in that entire song. And so I don't think he got any money from it or anything, though.
Really? Well, that's very big of him. I mean, that's very admirable. Because, I mean, Lil Nas X was using the actual melody, right? Like it wasn't, he was using the actual recording, I mean, from the Nine Inch Nails song. And then he added his own lyrics, Billy Ray Cyrus is brought into the mix and kind of makes it his own. But that's another gray area where he's copying, he's transforming, and he's combining, but is he combining enough? Is he transforming it enough? Any other examples that people can think of where they weren't, where they're on the side of the artist?
I think like another example is like, I think Vanilla Ice used like a beat from a Queen song that was pretty similar.
Yes.
Under Pressure.
Okay, and Mario, are you on Vanilla Ice's side there or on Queen's side?
I mean, I think it's actually David Bowie. I might have been wrong there.
It's Queen and David Bowie. It was Under Pressure was a collaboration between them.
I mean, like, I'm fine with people using like other people's stuff for like their own purposes as long as it's different. But I mean, the beats are like pretty similar. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was talking about, where a song uses a hip hop song uses too much. In the case of Vanilla Ice, the entire song is dun 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 dun, and that dun 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 dun, dun is a riff that was, like, who knows, maybe someone 200 years ago came up with that, but Queen and David Bowie copyrighted that in the 70s and used it in their wonderful song Under Pressure, and they were just like, no, Vanilla, you cannot use this riff. And Vanilla Ice famously, very stupid, foolishly, just said in court, well, it wasn't dun 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 dun. It was dun 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 dun. They're like, oh, one extra note, wow. But yeah, so Rob Van Winkle, is that his real name? Man, why would he change it? That's a great name. It's like a children's book writer. So Mario, I was actually talking about examples where you were on the side of the mashup artist or the remixer. Is there anyone who can think of a good example of? It doesn't have to even be music. It can be film. It can be whatever.
There's like this one song, Roses, that's like kind of viral right now on TikTok. And the original version was like super slow, but like the version that went viral is like a sped up, and like it's more high pitched. Mm-hmm. And I like that version a lot better. And
okay,
so this is basically everyone else on TikTok, but like, Yeah, at that point I'm on the side because it sounds better, like the new way. So
So aesthetically, it's more pleasing. But Gianna, do you know if the artist had to pay for the rights to that song?
I've never cared enough to look it up, but like.
All right, we can look it up maybe on the break. But
Okay.
So, all right. Anyone else have any other points before we move on?
I do have like one thing that's like actually on the side of the artist that's copying
Yes.
it. Like there's like a lot of like I have like a weird niche where I like listening to like different versions of like classical music that like just take into like different genres.
Yes.
And like in that case it is in the public domain, but like it's also different enough from the original like songs where it's like just kind of stands on their own.
Right. And no, that's a great point, Mario. And so we'll be talking more about the public domain. That's a great segue into our little presentation that we're going to do here. Copyright Workshop, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legal Gray Areas. Now, I apologize. This early section is probably going to be the driest part of today, but we have to do it. We have to kind of get our bearings, know what we're talking about, and make sure that everyone understands exactly what the fundamentals of copyright law are when it comes to intellectual property, the property of your intellect, the property of your brain, your ideas, your art. Intellectual property simply means a work of invention that is the result of creativity, such as a manuscript or design to which one has the rights and for which one may apply for a patent, copyright, trademark, etc. Now, copyright is a form of intellectual property law which protects original works of authorship, including literary, dramatic, musical, and artistic works, poetry, novels, movies, songs, computer software, architecture, whatever. Now, what makes it even more complicated is that copyright law can vary from country to country. And this comes up all the time with YouTube because YouTube is in almost every country in the world, I believe, except maybe China, North Korea, and a few others. And so I've had it happen before where I posted a video that contained copyrighted material and so it said this may not be available in certain countries, but it's still available in the U.S. because U.S. copyright law protects it.
Yeah, and Sean, some intellectual property laws vary from state to state.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God. So that's even worse. And remember, we have 50 states here. If anyone was watching the Democratic National Convention last night, it took about an hour to just do the roll call through all 50 states. It was actually quite amazing. But I was like, man, I got to go to sleep. But we're only on Missouri, and we've got all the New York, New Hampshire. Anyway, intellectual property. Okay, so there are 4 categories where certain intellectual property can be totally legal to use. And the first one is public domain, which is the state of belonging, of belonging or being available to the public as a whole, and therefore not subject to copyright. So as Mario was saying, a composition by Mozart, which was composed 250 years ago, is certainly not copyrighted anymore. We'll get back to that in a second. The next category are the 2 most beautiful words in the English language: fair use, which in the United States means the doctrine that brief excerpts of copyright material may, under certain circumstances, be quoted verbatim for purposes such as criticism, news reporting, teaching, and research, but not limited to those, remember, because we were talking about parody and commentary, without the need for permission from or payment to the copyright holder. Then there's royalty-free, which refers to the right to use copyright material or intellectual property without the need to pay royalties or license fees for each use, each copy or volume sold. And finally, the Creative Commons, which is a license for one of several public copyright licenses that enable the free distribution of an otherwise copyrighted work. A Creative Commons license is used when an author wants to give people the right to share, use, and build upon a work that they have created. So anyone who's done a search for sound effects or music online for their videos probably has come across at least a couple of these, right? Royalty-free or Creative Commons, where the artists are okay with it because they have some other means of income through their work, or maybe this is a side gig. I don't know. You can have many reasons for why you would make something. You would make something that you made royalty-free, but it's a great gift, to society. But you have to be able to afford giving that gift, and there's nothing wrong with, not wanting to do that if your goal is to make a living. So with music and copyright, a piece of music that you may hear could have two legal copyrights that apply. The first half is the musical composition copyright, which reflects the composition work for the composer and/or lyricist writer. The other half is the sound recording, so the actual performance and recording of the song. Now, going back to Mozart, if you use a piece that was written by Mozart, dun, 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 if you use me singing that in my awful voice or playing it on piano or whatever, then that's going to be fine because I, as the artist, am figuring out an original way to reproduce or reperform that work. But if you're using a version that you found online or that you bought that is by the London Philharmonic or the Boston Pops or whoever, that recording has been copyrighted. So with music, it's always very dicey when you're doing a cover. You're thinking, oh, I'm doing a cover. I'm putting my own spin on it. I'm making my own, but you still have to pay the musical composition rights if you want to sell that work and sell your new work and make any money off of it. So hopefully that makes sense. It comes up again and again with classical music and with even with any other kind of music, with doing covers of pop songs or whatever. So very important. Both musical composition and the recording rights have to be cleared.
I know one thing that a lot of movies do is it's cheaper to get a cover of a song than to get an original recording. And so sometimes that's why you see covers of like famous songs.
Exactly. So there was an episode of Seinfeld where they had Wouldn't It Be Nice by the Beach Boys. Now, that's a really, really popular song. It probably costs maybe tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to clear, especially since Seinfeld was on NBC, a major corporation, network, whatever. So but even they were like, we're not going to pay all that money for this. We can just get a sound-alike band to do their own recording of Wouldn't It Be Nice. And so they still had to pay the musical composition rights to the Beach Boys, but they didn't have to pay the sound recording rights because they made their own sound recording. Okay, so yeah, this is all what I've been saying before. While Beethoven's musical compositions might be public domain, the performance of one of his songs is not. The person holding the rights to the sound recording owns the song. With music covers, a performer playing a cover song must own copyright permission from the person who owns the rights to the musical composition. So what are your options for music? First, copyrighted music. You got to research the copyright on the song. What's the year? What's the country of origin? Who is the record label? Are there separate copyrights that the label oversees for the music composition and the performer? You may need to get consent to use the music by both the composer and the performer, unless you know the artist personally, especially if they're an indie artist. Major labels can be costly to get the rights, and this can be labor-intensive to pursue. So the problem here is that, this can really scare a lot of people off for the worse. And it's gotten to the point where very few independent films now make room in their budget for copyrighted music, especially because it is so vague. We don't know how much the label is going to charge because labels have charged a lot to major corporations like NBC, what I was just saying, and they've also cut smaller artists a break. So there's no blanket fee for every single song that every person in the world has to pay the same amount to. It really is context specific, and it varies on a case-by-case basis. So you never know, like especially if the artist has a good heart, and if the label miraculously also has a good heart, you may be able to talk them in, or like write an impassioned letter and get whatever you're looking for, for a four-figure fee, a few $1,000s instead of for $100,000. But it's always worth a try if you feel like this song is so integral to your film. Like what would Do the Right Thing be without Fight the Power? Or there's a great Hong Kong film, Chungking Express by Wong Kar-wai, that uses California Dreamin', another really huge pop song from the 60s. That would also, maybe because that was a pretty small film, they didn't have to pay as much as if 20th Century Fox was using the same song. So I don't want anyone to be scared away. I don't want anyone's heart to be broken. I just, we've got to just think about this in calm, practical, rational terms, but also in terms of what is best for the work itself. You can perform or write original score, song. Some of the best music of the last 100 years was written for movies. So it can be done. You just have to find the talent, or have the talent. You can also purchase a music license from a website like Audio Jungle, Marmoset. What we do at STEELTOWN is Artlist, which we pay, what is it, Ian, 100, 200 a year?
Yeah, it's like 200, around that, for all you can use music, and you retain the rights even after, even if you don't renew your membership, you have, rights and usage to all the materials that you've used in the past.
Yeah, so that's a pretty great deal, because I don't know if Artlist is paying the artists fairly. This was actually a problem with a platform like Spotify, where at the beginning they were really unfair to the artists, and certain artists were not signing on to Spotify because they got the royalties were so low, because it's a subscription-based service. It's not like what Apple Music is or was. I don't know if I know they've changed it recently. iTunes, where you buy the song or buy the album. But yeah, so
I believe Artlist is similar. So I used to submit photos to Getty Images.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Getty Images is sort of like the photography equivalent, and I believe that is like you would get paid per photo use, at least whenever I did it way back in the day. I believe Artlist is kind of the same way. You get like a couple pennies per download, probably.
All right, so not that great, but hopefully, if enough people are using it, then that adds up. But yeah, so, and Artlist has a lot of really good quality music, a lot of different genres. It's not the best, but it's still decent. So browse for Creative Commons and royalty-free music sites. Be sure to read the terms of creative use for the individual song. It's not fun to read the fine print, and it's hard on your eyes, but you sometimes just have to do it. And not all Creative Commons agreements are created equal, unfortunately. This is just what I wanted to show you what an original music licensing agreement looks like. You have to fill it out when you have a musician who is giving you the fair use, or I'm sorry, who's giving you the rights to use it. Giving you direct permission to use a pre-existing work. And then, on websites like Incompetech, you can see on the lower right, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. So, got to be clearly identified. Yeah, and this is what we were just talking about with Artlist and those kinds of websites. Any questions about those? So on YouTube's page, this is what they say. The first rule of copyright is that creators should only upload videos that they have made or that they're authorized to use. That means they should not upload videos they didn't make or use content in their videos that someone else owns the copyright to, such as music tracks, snippets of copyright programs, or videos made by other users without necessary authorizations. So YouTube is obligated to say that. There were probably a team of lawyers who composed that language. But is it true that YouTube doesn't have any videos that are not that are violating some kind of copyright law? Of course not. You know, there are, I think, over 1 billion videos on YouTube, and it's simply too hard for a lot of labels to comb through, to take the time to comb through and do searches every single day or every single hour, because you never know when something's going to get uploaded, because it's an ongoing website. And, you know, so certain things are able to fall through the cracks. And fortunately for my purposes, so I've been uploading to YouTube for about a year, I'm sorry, about 10 years, a decade. And most of what I have uploaded are some kind of remix, some kind of mashup of something that exists before. And I have never had a video deleted from YouTube until 2 months ago, actually. I'm going to tell you the story of what happened. But it's pretty remarkable that, you know, what I've done is not just upload something that someone else made. I'm, you know, taking a new idea, making a supercut of a bunch of different things, using hundreds of sources. Maybe, you know, the song is copyrighted, and so there, if that happens, when I upload it, I immediately get this video, like a little notification that says this video contains this song, and it's got to be, you know, if you want to upload it, we're going to play ads, because that's the agreement we have with that that copyright owner. So that is one way that these, especially major labels or corporations, studios, whoever, are getting around the combing problem. You know, they don't have the time to comb through, but they have installed these bots essentially through YouTube that immediately can detect an existing recording. And I don't care if there are advertisements playing before it. You know, I mean, they're annoying, but better to have the video on than on the internet than not to have it on at all. And so I guess kind of the most nakedly, what's the way to put it? The approach that I've taken, in which it's probably been the grayest area of all, has been with this series that I started 2.5 years ago called One Film, One Shot. And the idea was you take one shot from one feature film that is in some way very admirable or special, and the shot needs to represent the film well as play well on its own, decontextualized, taking it out of the context of the movie and just showing the actual shot. And then also what I would do is I would omit the music. So instead, or the original audio. So like Night of the Hunter, this is 46 seconds from a 90-minute film. It starts with one film, one shot, and then you see the image. So, and then this music starts playing. Okay, and that's it. So it's just that one shot that I found so beautiful in Night of the Hunter. I want you to just kind of zero in on its beauty and just think about it. If you haven't seen Night of the Hunter, you can think of it on it. You can think about it on its own. If you have, then you can think about it in context, or you can choose whether or not you want to analyze it as its own separate piece of art. But it's really like a form of art appreciation, really. Like, this is not me trying to make money off of Night of the Hunter. I've never made a penny off of any YouTube videos that I've uploaded. It's really just for the sake of both making art, making new remixes, as well as appreciating art. And what the other experiment that I was trying to that I was doing through One Film One Shot was using the same song, this track from Fantastic Mr. Fox that I feel is a very underappreciated score, and using it in all these different contexts. So there are 129 of them. And to show, like, there isn't just one way to use music when you're marrying music and image, when you're bringing a song and a picture together. There are myriad ways. There are infinite ways to do it. And so that's the story of One Film One Shot through June of 2020. But a funny thing happened just 2 months ago. I suddenly got a notification, and this was through my email. And it said, "I have a copyright strike. A copyright owner asked us to take down your video because they believe it contains material that violates their copyright. As a result, your video was removed from YouTube. Your channel received a strike. If you get 3 copyright strikes, your account, along with any associated channels, will be subject to termination." Now, you can imagine the terror that went through my heart and my brain at that time. I mean, it was just, 10 years, and this has never happened before. And I was looking like, okay, so content removed by, and then it's another language, and then it's a place called Central Motion Pictures. And so I did a little research, and it turns out, yes, they own the copyright to this image from a film called A Brighter Summer Day. They are a production company in Taiwan. And A Brighter Summer Day is has anyone seen it? Let me know if you've seen it, because it is a very, for a long time, it was really hard to find. Finally, the Criterion Collection put it out. I got a chance to see it when I was a teenager, and really was impressed by it. I mean, it's 4 hours long, and it's by this director, Edward Yang, who later made a film called Yi Yi, and which was very, got much more commercial attention. But yeah, so it's 4 hours. I used 40 seconds. Okay, so do the math. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction. And I'm showing this image. I'm not going to show it to you now just because I'm so terrified that Central Motion Pictures is going to come after me again. But it's a family, and they're eating, and a boy, the son rises, he goes into a closet, and that's where his bed is, and that's it. And so I kind of was watching this shot in the context of COVID and thinking about how people are, this is kind of what everyone's going through right now. Families are kind of hunched together, and for better or worse. And, there's a lot of kind of this sense of isolation, but also, hunkering down togetherness, and then also a sense of, loneliness maybe. So a lot of interesting things going on. I thought it was worth posting. And clearly Central Motion Pictures had a problem with it. Now, how did they find it? They must have been, someone who works for them must have been doing a search, because this notification came 2 weeks after I posted it. And so they deleted it. So YouTube deleted it. They said, I have this copyright strike. It expires September 27th, which is only a month away, which is great, because I don't want that hanging over my head for my entire life. But, it's just really terrifying. So it's gotten me kind of reconsidering a lot of, my practices. I had to I stopped doing One Film One Shot because I realized, like, in a court of law, I would have to hire such a great lawyer to make the cases that I'm making, you know, for like all this kind of commentary and the fair useness. And that's just not something I can afford right now, and nor something that I want to waste my life doing. So, you know, I got 2.5 years out of it. I really am proud of it. It's an interesting series. It's similar actually to other series that I did not know about. I swear, when I first started it, there's one called One Perfect Shot that doesn't actually post the clips, but just shows you a still frame from on Twitter. And Ava DuVernay, director of Selma and lots of other great films, she picked it up and kind of collaborated with the makers of One Perfect Shot, and now they've got a show for HBO. So I'm like, you know, that could have been me. At the same time, I mean, it's like what Kirby was saying, like when some huge breakthrough happens, there are usually a bunch of other people who are doing something similar, but it's kind of a race. And I was clearly the loser in this race. But yeah, so now it just says deleted video. And I mean, you know, it had a lot of fans. It didn't have that many, but you know, it was sad for me to see it go, but it's not worth it to me to continue doing it. So, because I got other, you know, fish to fry. And what I would love to do moving forward is to continue to utilize Vimeo. Now, Vimeo is really a wonderful alternative to YouTube. It's definitely a lot less popular. It's something you have to, you don't have to pay to upload, but you have to pay if you want to upload bigger files. And it is, because of that kind of subscription-based model, they don't make you watch advertisements. So that's how YouTube makes money, because of all the ads. So Vimeo is in a sense a little cooler than YouTube, because it's kind of got this like chic elegance about it. And so a lot of filmmakers post original work, short films, feature films even, on Vimeo, just because A, it's more of a kind of elegant platform. B, the quality is a lot higher. It's HD. YouTube is HD, but it still compresses your videos, and it's, you know, I mean, if you're really picky about pixelation, then Vimeo is your friend. And then finally, Vimeo is a lot less litigious. The users of Vimeo are, at least, or like the, you know, labels are not scouring Vimeo like they're scouring YouTube, simply because Vimeo is not taking money away from them in the way that it's taking money, in the way that some people feel like they are being threatened by all the users on YouTube. So, but that's not to say that no one gets in trouble. And I've seen, like, there was a film called Ponyo that I was watching with my son. I found it on Vimeo, and he asked to watch it again, as 4-year-olds do. And then I refreshed, and it was gone. And it said, this video has been taken down due to a copyright violation by, or copyright claim by, I think, Buena Vista, but because Disney owns the rights to Studio Ghibli films. So, you know, that was a little frightening. But, I mean, at the same time, like, yes, you know, Disney wants you to rent Ponyo or buy Ponyo. They don't want you to watch, like, the entire movie on Vimeo. So, so I think that they were in the right, actually, there. But if you're posting something more creative and something shorter, or something that utilizes a lot of different materials, a lot of different sources, then I really don't see the problem. I actually just learned, because for a long time I was very worried about this, but I learned through a video that Kirby made, actually, with a lawyer by his side, a real live lawyer, saying that the way that you can get these copyrighted materials, if you rip them, you capture them, you screen grab them, you screen capture them, whatever, you download them maybe, if you're using it in a way that can be deemed fair use, then the way that you acquired it is okay. And now that is really quite a relief, because, I mean, how do you think we got Dumbo for the circus, or I'm Gonna Get You Sucker for Kung Fu Joe. These films have to be ripped some way. And so despite those terrifying FBI warnings at the beginning of every single DVD or Blu-ray or whatever, you are protected. And the reason for that is because of this amazing organization called the Organization for Transformative Works. And they are like this, basically a nonprofit, just like STEELTOWN, that goes to the government every 3 years, I believe, and argues on behalf of artists who are, in some way found footage people, mashup artists, whatever, but have to use technology, disk drives, programs, whatever, to acquire their materials, and they say that's okay, and then the government says okay, but they've got to do it like every few years, and they ask for donations, and I have certainly benefited from them, so I donated to them, and am very grateful, because otherwise it would be such a catch-22. You can use, it's fair use to use these things, but it's not fair to actually rip them or to get them. That just doesn't make sense. So remember, this, at the end of the day, this is about money. And if you are making money off of someone else's work in a way that is really less copying or less transforming and more copying, then that's really where it's a moral gray area, and certainly a legal gray area. But if you're not making any money, then it's really, you're not taking away any money from the artist, then it's very hard to argue on behalf of the original. And yeah, so that's basically where I stand. If anyone disagrees, please feel free. But this it really is a case-by-case basis and a matter of degree at the end of the day, as we were talking about earlier. It's depending on how much you're using and in what context. And that's why the copyright law is so complicated at this point, because people have, no two lawyers will tell you the same exact rules. It's gotten to the point where so much of this is determined by judges, and it's very subjective, because we're talking about art at the end of the day. So, as like we were discussing at the beginning, sometimes the artist goes too far, sometimes they don't. All right, let's go to copyright school. Just want to see if everyone kind of is on the same page, and we can answer some of these questions. These are true, false questions. All right, let's play. As long as I have purchased the content in question, it is not possible for me to infringe copyright by uploading it to YouTube. True or false?
False.
Copyright infringement is a serious offense, and violation of the law may have significant consequences.
True.
If someone alleges that you have infringed their copyright, you will receive a notification in your account, in your email, both, or via text.
C.
C.
Sorry, which one?
C.
C, okay. Content that was once allowed by a content owner may be subsequently removed from YouTube. True or false? So someone has, the artist has changed their mind. True? Or the company?
I mean, I guess true.
4 for 4. Very good, everybody. Oops.
Does this mean we're as smart as lawyers now, John?
Yes, it does. The following things are copyrightable: names, places, faces, and spaces. True or false?
True.
True? False? Okay, then we've got a disagreement. Let's get some votes. Who thinks it's true?
I don't think you can copyright a name, can you?
Can you? I don't know. Let's find out.
I mean, maybe you could. Wait. Maybe you.
Yes.
No,
What
don't.
about Mickey Mouse?
Because like you
Yeah.
could copyright like Lady Gaga or something like that.
You
Like.
can copyright names, yes.
Okay.
Okay, I think it's maybe true then. I don't know.
For example, if someone made a movie called Star Wars and did not put a fan film, I'm pretty sure Lucasfilm and Disney would have a problem with that.
All right. What about places and faces and spaces?
I think you can copyright like places.
No, those are open, public. Well, not public. Even if they're private, they can be made public. So,
But
they're
like
not entirely
Disneyland, like I can't open up like a theme park and name it Disneyland.
Okay, but
well, that would be
who
taking
wants
the
to
name. It wouldn't be
because
taking
remember
the location.
Sorry, say that again.
Amir G.
You. Who is
Uh,
that?
I also don't think you can copyright a face.
But yeah, in that case of like the Disneyland thing, you'd be taking the name of the place. You wouldn't be taking the actual place. And you would be able to tell the difference.
All right.
What about Narnia? That's the place.
Yeah, but that's not a theoretical place, but a imagine place. So that would be intellectual property.
Who thinks that a face can be copyrighted?
But what if it's like the face of Mickey Mouse or something? Like,
I don't think that's what they're talking about.
well, like I can't copyright your face, John.
All right, so I'm going to put false.
Wait, well, what if I'm wrong?
If content is, what if you're wrong? The stakes are pretty low here, don't worry. If content is available on the internet, it is in the public domain and therefore okay to upload to YouTube.
False.
The following items are not protected by copyright: videos, people, photographs, and musical works.
People.
Which one?
People. B.
If you claim fair use in the video description, your video cannot be considered copyright infringement.
I mean, after the fact, somebody could review the footage and say, oh, this wasn't used in fair use, so I'd say false.
4 for 4 again. So people are not protected by copyright. In order for something to be protected by copyright, it must be creative, expressive, unique, and fixed in some form. So it's really come up a lot with names, actually, titles. Titles, I have heard again and again, are not copyrightable, but unless the owner has actually gotten a restricted, that little R after it, and so they have to file it with the the U.S. Copyright Office and everything, and then no one can steal their title. So there can only be one Star Wars Episode 20, The Revenge of the Wookiee. But at the same time, there are lots of more generic titles, like a film called Weekend. There are several different Weekends. There are lots of films that have just 1 word or 2 word titles, and that's because the original one didn't copyright it, and so the title itself is fair use or fair game. The only issue, though, if you are what a lawyer once told me is the area where it gets dicey is if you call your work something and people could mistake it for the original. So, in that sense, it could take away the business from the original. But if it's like a totally different form or a different genre or whatever, then it's interesting. Titles are a lot more fair game than you think.
What's interesting about people is that sometimes, even though people aren't copyrighted, Using people's likenesses can still get you into certain issues. Like person can still send you a cease and desist to stop using their likeness, unless you get waivers and stuff. It's kind of, but yeah, it's weird, like that gray area.
Yeah. So if a film is slandering somebody, or if there's some kind of libel about a real life person, and it's that person can totally sue, or their estate, or their descendants, or whoever, if they're dead. But at the same time, you have the right to at least try if they're a public figure. If it's a private figure, then that's where it can get really messy. So yeah, but if it's someone who you can find on Wikipedia, then most likely you can make a movie about them and claim that it's a public figure. It's totally okay. So why don't we do one more? Okay, I'm pretty sure this was already there. Copyright serious offense. Yes, true. If content is available on the internet, is therefore okay. Did we come up with that, or did we approach that already? If content is available on the internet, is in the public domain and therefore okay to upload to YouTube. True or false?
False.
Okay. Fair use is a legal defense that applies in all countries.
False.
If you misuse YouTube's counter notification process, your YouTube account will be terminated. You could end up in court, or both.
Both.
Okay. All right, 12 for 12, people. That's terrific. Well done.
So now we can just all go to law school and be lawyers.
That's right. That's right.